All right. So let's start with why am I doing this? Pretty obvious question, right? And to answer it, we have to go back to probably in my whole life, I think I've owned two dogs. My first dog was named Sparky, and I don't remember how old I was. Now, don't get me wrong, our family had dogs. And when I say our family, I mean mainly my sister. I had several dogs over the couple of years that I've lived there through my time at home. But really, the dog that I consider my dog was Sparky. And I don't remember how old we were, but I remember we all had to, know how important it was and how you had to be responsible and take care of a dog. And Sparky had his own little doghouse, and it was outside. And I remember one year he was covered. It was covered in snow. And this actually happened with a couple of our dogs, I think. But the snow was so high that he was kind of blocked in, and we had to dig him out and make sure that he was okay. And he was okay. We had Sparky for a while, and he got sick and died. And when he died, I didn't really want to have anything more to do with dogs. I found that he was a hassle. They were jumpy and would get all over you and always wanted your attention. And it wasn't that I didn't love Sparky, that I didn't enjoy being with Sparky. It was just that it wasn't necessarily worth all the effort for what little you got out of it, I guess. And that was the first dog. And like I said, there's been several dogs that have gone through our family since that time. Like I said, mainly dogs of my sister. And I just sort of washed my hands of it and said, look, it's not my dog. If you want to have a dog and take on all that responsibility, go ahead. But I don't want to have anything to do with it. And so that went on for a number of years. And then the next dog I had was, not that long ago, less than 5 years ago, and that was Ginger. And that was a dog that we brought into our family, me, my wife, and the kids. And it was a Jack Russell Terrier, very jumpy dog as well. And I guess it's important to explain that I basically think all dogs are the same. And this is something that Kathy and I disagree on. But dogs, by their nature, I think are jumpy and inquisitive and like to get into things and don't necessarily do what you tell them and are very hard to train. And I know there's people out there that'll say, well, different breeds are different, and some dogs are harder than others and some dogs are easier than others. And for me, I think it's more about the owner, more about the responsibility of the owner than it is about the dog's behavior. I think any dog will be misbehaving, will be not doing well, and will get into a pattern if it isn't treated well. And when I say treat it well, I don't mean, like you're abusing the dog. I just mean dogs need constant attention. They need to know that you're in charge as their owner. They need to feel protected. They come into this world and they're going to either want to be dominant or submissive. And those dogs that want to be dominant and want to have control over you, it generally happens from a lot of playfulness, a lot of playing with the animal and taking care of the animal, but not making it work for anything, not making it, I don't know what the right word is, letting it think that it's in charge, that it can do whatever it wants. And I think that causes problems with the dog, regardless of what breed it is. And it kind of ruins a dog, because if you've had a dog for several years, and then you do end up deciding to give it up, you now have this misbehaving dog that you then have to pass on to somebody else, or even worse, perhaps has to get euthanized. And when you think about it, here's this animal that came into the world, and unless it's purebred, it probably came into the world by accident, and, didn't ask anything of anybody for the life that it had. It gets chosen by a family. It lives with that family for a while. Perhaps it develops behavior problems, and then it gets given up, and it might end up dying. And this creature no longer gets to live anymore, and it didn't really do anything wrong. It didn't know any better. It wasn't deliberately trying to be bad. It just things didn't work out, and that's really hard. It's really hard for me to deal with. I think one of the biggest things I want people to get out of this is having a dog is a big commitment. You're making a commitment to this dog's life or whatever it may be. Now, I understand dogs may get sick and, maybe you have to have the dog put down and I understand that. I mean, these things happen and life happens, right? But when you're not constantly giving attention to the dog, when you're not training the dog, when you're not letting the dog know, what that relationship is and making it feel comfortable and making it feel protected, when it does develop behavioral problems, it's not the dog's fault. It doesn't matter what the breed is, and maybe people will comment on this and say that I'm wrong. That, some dogs are just super easy to maintain. As soon as you pick them up from a puppy, they're always going to listen to you and they're never going to make any mistakes. And I don't think that's true. Maybe some dogs are easier than others. But, a lot of people, when they get dogs, they're not necessarily looking at purebred dogs. They're looking at mutts or crossbreeds between different dogs. And so people might know very well what the behavior is of a Jack Russell Terrier or a poodle or a Labrador Retriever. But these are expensive dogs to purchase purebred. You're more likely going to get a mix of multiple dogs, and so what do you expect the behavior to be of that, right? I mean, it's going to be this mix of behaviors, and it's going to be the onus of the owner to make sure that they're well behaved, by treating them well and by establishing the appropriate dog owner relationship, and that's a really hard thing to do. It's not just about feeding and caring and walking. It's about establishing, bringing in this creature this animal as a member of your family, and you really have to make a strong commitment to that, no matter what. Just like you make a commitment to, when you have kids, you can't just decide, oh my God, today my kids are really hard and they're giving me a hard time, so I'm going to give them up. I think it's the same way with the dog. You take it in, and for the lifetime that you have that dog, through the good and the bad, you need to be committed to sticking with it, and not giving it up. And I think some of this whole experience, this whole idea of doing this live is, I want people to see everything for what it is, and I want them to really make sure they think hard before purchasing a pet and what that means. And, I also want to avoid this happening again. I don't want to be in the situation where in a year or 2 or 3 years that we decide this dog isn't right for us and has to be given up, because I don't know if I can go through that all over again like I did before. I don't want to go through all that again like I did that before, and I need everybody's help to make sure that it doesn't happen. So I guess that's everything. Thanks for